Hello, thank you so much for coming to the Sashiko Live Streaming. This is Atsushi, and this is the live streaming where I talk about Sashiko stories and cultural perspective while me doing stitching. So I will not focus on talking much. Well, I will probably have to focus on talking, but I will not be teaching anything or doing like lectures or webinars. It is the place for us to stitch together while talking, while learning about Sashiko story behind it. So please do not ask any technical questions, though those are already online on YouTube. So please check those videos, and any other cultural questions are appreciated. Okay, have a little strange breathing issue today, so I'll calm down a little bit, and I will move to the actual stitching. One announcement. I have uploaded. Well, I mean, thank you so much for coming to the previous. Not a previous. Thank you so much for coming to the talk, Sashiko Talk, as the series of cultural appreciation versus appropriation. The archive is uploaded to my YouTube channel, and the link is on the description area. So please find that. And we have the follow-up. We had the follow-up conversation after that, and one of the kind of questions that I carried from that discussion is that, and yeah, that's about it. Oops, is it moving? Okay, so I will move to the different camera. Thank you so much for coming, Lily-san. Thank you so much for coming, Rebecca. All right. Oof. So today is my last day of being 30s. I cannot believe that I'm going into 40s. Well, I am going into 40s tomorrow, so it's really unbelievable. In Confucius, right? Confucius, yeah. In Confucius, the 40 is the year of not wandering, 惑わず. According to I cannot say that word. According to the Confucius, the teachers said that one decided to make a living by studying in academic, and at the age of 30, we started making our own life after sort of completing the learning, and then the age of 40. He or they decided they kind of stopped wondering about their decisions when they have to make choices, and then around 50 they understand what is the mission of fate, from the from, well, in this case probably God is the good translation. And then 60s, what was that, 60s, I think. I remember, if I'm wrong, please correct me. At the age of 60, they started listening to the others' opinions, others saying, honestly, like without fighting back or without defending, without questioning back. And then the age of 70, the day of 70, they realized that they will not do anything stupid, even if they do what they think. So that's a really, really long life of 70 years, 80 years. And I am now the no wondering. I don't know if that's a very good description for myself right now. Yeah, I'm still wondering very much. Like I'm very much wondering. So it is interesting. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's the age of when I became the 30. I was still in Japan working for my family business, and I never ever expected that I would be doing this right now like this. So, my father's death in 2013, October, just 1 month after my birthday, was the pretty much life changer. If he were alive, I don't know. I'm probably still in Japan, which I don't know if I'm gonna be teaching or sharing those Sashiko stitching here. So it is very much the life changer. And 10 years ago today, I really would not think that this would be my life, sharing Sashiko over the internet, talking to you, talking to many other audiences about what Sashiko is. Back then, I had so many things to carry, including the family business, artisan's life. So it is quite interesting. 10 years, people can be completely different person, in this case, in a good way. By the way, is it already past your birthday? No. In Japan welcomed the day earlier than pretty much most of the world. So right now, it is my birthday in Japan, but not here yet. So I'm still enjoying the last moment of being 39. It's kind of, yeah, it's really interesting to see me being 40. What was I talking? Yeah, so there will be another 50 years from now to understand my mission of this life. I think I understand my mission already, but still, like, that's something even Confucius says that. So there's no such a thing as it's too late to start something new. So especially Sashiko, it does not require any physical activities. So anybody can start it. I hope that you keep enjoying it. Sorry, my breathing is a little weird today. Let's drink something. It's still so hot in this house. Why is it so hot? Well, it should be cool today, so it's gonna be okay. So let's change the topic to the P. Not a P, it is P, yeah. So in the previous talk with Yuki-san about cultural appreciation and appropriation, it was very, I could summarize my messages quite well. It's kind of, not humble to say that I summarized it quite well by myself, but because Yuki-san's question was really good and I had enough time to prepare that, because if I was writing the essay already, it's quite summarized. Everything is pretty much what I have said already in this live streamings or on the social media site, I mean post like Instagram. But I think that was a good summary. So if you have not had a chance to watch it, please try that. It's probably a very good way to kind of grasp what I'm trying to convey. I often get misunderstood by some of the people who react to the word cultural appropriation without listening what I'm trying to say. So instead of doing that, I think that can be a quite good introduction as well as the approach to understand what I'm trying to say. And in that talk, in the section where that I would like to, in the section where Yuki-san asked me to define what what cultural appropriation is, I referred 3 P's, like 3 words starting from P, defined by, one is from Emi-san, who were the second speaker in this series, and also the Kane Kawasaki. He was, I think it's he, but he was on the YouTube talking about cultural appropriation. His definition was also using 3 P's. So we have to define a lot of words to make this discussion proactive. No, not a proactive. In order to make this discussion somewhat valid, we have to define every single word. So I'm not gonna do it here right now. But the 3 P's they defined was from Emi-san. That was people, power, and profit. And from Kawasaki-san, that was property, privilege, and profit. So they're kind of linked. They're kind of similar, but they use different words to describe what they really think. So it is quite interesting to see that although they differently define their definitions, the word profit is quite same, right? So property can be people in the definition, broader definition, but that's not quite equal. So I want to watch their presentation as well to learn their definitions. Don't learn from me on behalf of their. I'm not talking on behalf of them. But for me, power, people, profit, and then profit is the least worrying I have. But I think that's probably the biggest worry biggest theme that it would be brought up in this kind of topic. The reason I say that is I often get a question, what do I think about those people, let's say non-Japanese people who make profit out of doing sashiko? And my answer is I don't mind that much. I mean, I said not that much, but I don't mind that at all, to be honest. If they would like to make money by doing sashiko, my answer is go ahead. Only, but this is the crucial case, is that if they advertise themselves as the master, or what they sell, what they teach, what they do is representing the whole picture of sashiko, then that's going to be a problem. But if they kind of want to get an audience by saying sashiko and also mentioning or acknowledging the other Japanese sashiko stitches on the side note, to me, it's not that big of a deal. But I think it is the biggest concern in this discussion from here non-Japanese perspective. So this is kind of my question. This is something I have to learn, I have to redefine, but what is profit in this context? Is it like really just the money, like income, or like financial values, or what else can we talk about in terms of profit? All I worry about is probably property is good definition that I worry about. When the people hear the word Sashiko, I want them to have specific images. Not a specific images. I want them to have images, and those images, I want it to be more like Japanese. Like I wanted to make it similar to Japanese Sashiko. Or, if that's not gonna happen, I would like to distinguish the Japanese Sashiko and the American Sashiko, English Sashiko, as the sushis are separated. Even not separated, they're categorized or, designated. And if the word are well designated, I don't mind that neither. And it's a problem because some people think or advertise or teach that they are representing the Japanese Sashiko, which is not. So I am still unclear on the profit as appropriation. Still, I am very unclear about that. So that explains that I'm still learning about this concept. I can relate myself to some of the examples, but I am not the one who went through the pain strongly in my childhood. So I can understand it, but when I become the person to receive the question, I don't have the answer, like a detailed or concrete answers to that. That's why my answer becomes very like very vague, that I don't mind that. What is the profit? Like, for example, if one cannot, let's say if one cannot make any money, when one cannot do any businesses using the foreign word, most of the business has to shut down, right? Technically speaking, the word travels and word changes, culture changes, everything moves around. So profit itself, I understand those people. I'm sorry. I try to understand those people who feels painful by somebody using their word for the profit, like money-wise. I understand that I try to understand their feeling. I try to listen to that. But my honest feeling, at least my attitude to Sashiko, it is reasonable for them to make money if they spend enough time on that. And if the market support them, that is sort of okay to me. Again, it's wrong stuff. It's a wrong action if they advertise with false information or insufficient information. If they sell some supplies saying that this is the only Sashiko thread or this is the only Sashiko needles that Japanese people use, that is wrong, because I am the only one who is selling this needle. My mother is the only one who is selling this needle. So as we do not wholesale, we cannot wholesale. It is wrong statement because our needles are not included there, and there's so many Japanese Sashiko artisans who use our needle. So it is, if one make a profit, like let's say money profit, by making the false advertisement, then that's a very big issue. But that's not a cultural appropriation issue. That's more like a business fundamental issue. it's not okay. It's not ethical to make a business based on the false information, right? So it's kind of difficult, but at the same time, this is challenging. It's a good challenge for me to think. Hello, Leiko-san. One of the good example I can share would be I probably used that. I may have used that in the follow-up section, or I may have used it in the main one. But Nike, like a big shoemakers, Nike, they made a Sashiko shoes a few years ago. I think that was a few years ago already. They named their shoes like a sketcher, like a skater's shoes, Sashiko shoes. And quite many people worried about me that I was I got hurt. I was sad. I would be sad by looking at those, Nike's decision. So they gave me nice, very warm, heartwarming word, encouragement, and they were actually angry for myself. They were upset on behalf of me. But I was more like, well, it's okay, I guess. And I did not feel close to any. It did not move my heart a lot. Because for me, it's one way to kind of use the word. And it is probably a form of cultural appropriation if we discuss in the broader picture. One big company which has power use the word without proper understanding and put it on the product name. And this might fall under the categorization of cultural appropriation. But to me, it's not that big of a deal. There's a reason behind it. Don't like. It's not because Nike is a big company or I like Nike shoes. It's more like there's a reason behind it. Because Nike did not explain what Sashiko is so much. They put the word on the shoes, so that action itself may be not okay. But to me, it is okay because that shoes or trend will not change the culture itself. They know the market, and those trend changes. So they will forget about the word Sashiko year later, 2 years later, when the trend gone, when those products are sold out, they will forget. So as long as there are stitches around, we will not change the culture, and Nike did not change the culture. Nike may have made some, profit by selling it, but again, it's for me, it's kind of reasonable category for the usage of the word. Then you may ask, what is not okay then? Well, what is not okay is those who change the culture's practice itself. So for that, I think if one starts selling the Sashiko kit, saying that this will be everything you need to get, like all in one stop or all one in set, then that may be the cultural appropriation because they're making a profit out of offering the wrong information or insufficient information. The Nike did not offer wrong information or insufficient information by selling the Sashiko shoes because they did not offer any explanation or teaching. So, to me, that's not even the matter of okay or not okay. It's just what it is. Somebody visiting my house is okay. They can knock my door. I might answer that. I might not answer that, but it's okay to knock the door. If they decided to come in the house and stood painting, that's a little different story. We have to stop that. So for the Nike's case, that was more like visiting the house and knocking the door, and then when they are tired of knocking, they will move to the second house, next house. Those who kind of teach or sell as the cultural package, they might be changing the whole contents. That I don't. No, that's the only case I find it an issue. So, and that's the only profit issue that I can think of as well. Everything else is like, no, I don't think it's a problem. Like, for example, if you decided to sell some of your items that you make today, naming Sashiko, I don't think I would be offended. However, if you decided to advertise your Sashiko items as saying like, I know everything about this culture, then that's a little bit different story. But I don't know anybody who is doing that. I know nobody who is selling Sashiko items saying that they know everything. There are teachers who kind of advertise like that. But if you know any products saying that, please let me know. When Yuki did her Jack Live, or JACL Live, I'm sorry, JACL Live, she made it sounds like it is appropriation to make money or living from anything Japanese related, Japanese fabrics or tools when selling what was made it from. Yes, and that's probably the mainstream of this discussion, this issue or this concern, this topic, this theme, this concerns, this how do you call that? Problem? Not a problem. Discussion. And I kind of understand it. Well, I'm sorry, let me rephrase it. I try to understand it. I am learning, I'm still learning, so I might change my word next year or next week. But at this moment today, still, for me, it is okay, or even it is okay for non-Japanese to sell the Japanese item. I mean, then if it's vice versa, it's gonna. Well, but we have to listen. We have to listen to those who think it's painful. And as you know, JACL said that we don't have to agree on everything. We can have a different perspective. So I do have a different perspective there. But the profit is something I really have to dig into, and that's why I'm kind of asking for your input here. Well, we as Japanese are very, very far from this issue, cultural appropriation. 99.99% of the Japanese will not find it offensive when the non-Japanese people do something we define as the cultural appropriation. We will probably welcome without questioning that. Like, for example, if you non-Japanese white people decided to wear kimono, the Japanese people in Japan will not find it offensive. I don't think so. But however, it does not mean that it's okay, because there are people who are thinking that could be painful. So we have to always listen to the word from the pain. We cannot minimize somebody's pain. We shouldn't minimize somebody's pain. But for me, it is important to learn by talking like out loud. So I guess my point is, like, false advertisement is bad. And that's what I'm fighting against. False advertisement. But that's not really a cultural thing. Even within the same culture, false advertisement is bad. But unfortunately though, the market with using the foreign language can be full of false advertisement because nobody can judge it, nobody can tell it. And that's what's going on in Sashiko too. That's why I'm trying to learn this issue. But if they are, if those people are trying to learn what Sashiko is, and if they acknowledge the upstream they're learning from, then well, supply is a little tricky part though. I have zero concerns about the people making their own Sashiko items. Let's say Sashiko stitched denim or bag or anything, with proper introduction on what Sashiko is, and referring the upstream way they learned from it, and also introducing other Japanese Sashiko artisans who practice Sashiko, selling that item for profit. I am perfectly fine. Like, there's no issue. Again, acknowledgement is really base foundation of that. Tools and supplies can be a little tricky though. Because what they support may not be the best profit for the Japanese market, Japanese artisans. For example, majority of the English non-Japanese suppliers are representing big companies. They're selling the thread or other tools or fabric produced by bigger company with mass production, made for the mass consumption. And it's very simple. Why is it very simple? Because the big company has the resource to do the first international wholesale. Second, human resource for the people who can understand the language. The third, the people who can do the taxes, like export import. For money, like international wiring. So there are a lot of admin work in between, and big companies are prepared for that. But it does not mean that the small company exists. And those small companies don't have the ability or resources to sell their product to outside of the country. And even worse, a few steps back, they don't welcome new business. Some of the very strict, old-fashioned Japanese traditional artisans, they would rather go out of business than welcoming new client. Trust me, it's very bad, but it is how it is. So we have to kind of, respect that. So for that, supporting the other non-Japanese suppliers may be ending up with supporting the big commercialized companies and sacrificing the small industries in Japan, which has been doing that for the last 100 years or so. If that happens, not if, when that happens, then the profit can be the issue. At the same time, although that's also the nature of the market, because some of the things are mass-produced, not some of them, the mass-produced items can be cheaper because it's mass-transited in logistics. It can be cheaper in many, many things. As the result, that's how business goes. That's how globalization goes, how business goes in capitalism. The more capital they have, the better they can do business. And that's the nature of the business. So I'm not gonna say it's wrong, but it is probably unfair when one can kind of pretend that they're supporting the cultural perspective of Japanese practice by supporting the big companies, which they might not know about Sashiko much. They might not stitch. So that's a little different story. Am I making myself sort of reasonable here? I'm still trying to learn. So, long story short, if that's like an outcome of you enjoying Sashiko, I don't have any problem if you make money out of it. If you decided to make Sashiko thread by yourself, like by twisting the ideal way to pursue the purpose of Sashiko, in your understanding, that's perfectly fine. It's just, by doing those, but profit means profit is going to support somebody. It is the action to support somebody, something behind it. And I want the world to mindful about who they are supporting directly and indirectly. Like for those who does not know the small suppliers, they don't know the whole picture of Sashiko. Absolutely not. They're just doing the business with whoever they can. And that does not mean that they know everybody or everything, because they don't. They don't have enough Japanese ability to go to small business and be there, build a relationship with them, ask them, beg them to be the supplier, or even let me use those thread needles and fabric. Those traditional relationships are not gonna be there because they don't speak Japanese. It's like one of the biggest barriers can be the language when they really have to make those business. The artisans will smile at them or you, even if you don't speak the same language. They will welcome you. They will welcome you. They will probably teach you something, or they will offer something. But unless the moment that you speak the same language as they do, we are the foreigners. We are the outsiders of that practice. I had to learn the dialogue to talk to one person who was in the same prefecture but little bit different dialect or intonation. Intonation was different, and I even tried to practice that to sound local, which was not necessary because she knew my family. But that's how kind of personal it is, and it's not gonna be it does not mean that, well, I'm importing the fabric or supplies from Japan, so I'm supporting Japanese culture, is not a wrong statement. It's not a wrong statement, but it's not 100%. It's not a whole. We have to understand, well, what kind of Japanese market is it actually related to the culture, or those entertainment instead of the essence. Well, sometimes they don't even know what they're selling. That's out of conversation at this moment. We're talking about somebody who is advertising themselves differently. So I'm not worried about anything from you guys here, and I would not take any of your doing as offensive, because you are acknowledging my stories. It might be uncomfortable, but you're still here to listen to that, so I'm okay with it. Any other interpretation application, I just have to make my boundaries clear. So selling item they make with their understanding of Sashiko as the end product or as the item to be made, is 100% fine with me when they acknowledge the stories behind it. Selling the supplies can be a little tricky if they don't explain everything behind that. But explaining everything about those supplies and tools can be pretty hectic work, so probably they don't do it. So it's kind of a gray area. It's much better than, saying whatever, but still a little on gray. And the third thing is the making profit as the cultural package, like the package saying like this will explain everything about Sashiko or even Boro. Then that's actively changing the culture because they cannot explain what Sashiko is or Boro is in one single package. If I can, I would be doing right now. Trust me. If I can, and if my goal is to make money, I will be doing that right now, right here. I don't do it because it's not true. So those are the kind of three levels, three grade level attitude. Three darkness of that issues. But if you have different, it is a really ongoing topic, and only way we can kind of understand this topic is to hear from those with the actual pain, I think. When we think logically, we live in that world already, so we have to deny some of the things we do today, and that's really not healthy. So it is emotional. It should start from emotion, and it is our mission or work to understand, interpret, or even learn from those emotionals. Sometimes I might say screaming, but it is probably screaming for some people. It is sad, like for the suppliers, it is sad to see that some of the small suppliers had to go out of business. And, they did not ask for the help outside of Japan. They did not. They didn't even ask for the help inside of Japan, as long as I know. They just simply decided to go out of business. But at the same time, nobody who say that they are supporting the Japanese Sashiko culture did not did not offer any help. Financially, or even logistically, they did not offer anything. And I wonder if they even know it. Probably they don't know it. Because they don't know. They cannot know without the language. I'm not saying like one has to learn Japanese to practice or to enjoy Sashiko. Or like, no, you don't need any of the languages. Language might be helpful to enrich your experience, but it's not necessary things to have. Just enjoy Sashiko, and that's the whole purpose that I'm doing this in English. But teaching is a different story, and when it comes to teaching, I think it's fairly, as I explained, there are two kinds of teaching. So if the teaching is about specifying one culture, not the guide, then the language is a very, very must skill to have. Whew. I think it makes sense. And it might change soon or later. I don't know. Like the more it's the ongoing process. And I understand those people who say that, cultural appropriation can happen when one person outside of that culture decided to make profit out of any other activities. So I may agree on them if I have enough stories from them. But I'm making this public. I am not editing anything. As of today, I am feeling like that. Leah, that's awesome. I started the class this week at the local university on conversational Japanese. That is so awesome. It's gonna be different. Even a little word is gonna open up something. It is good to hear all of the different stories and opinions. Yes, so my goal is not to exclude. I might sound that I'm excluding people. Some people, some accuse me on the Instagram or Facebook saying like I am creating the barriers by sharing my honest stories. And well, that might be ending up with that because of how they react. But my intention is to include. I would like to make sure to include everybody who, like, possibly, hopefully, everybody as much as I can from Japan, not in English focused. Right now, there are leaders in non-Japanese Sashiko world, and they are probably misleading. And not probably, they are misleading some of the cultural concept. And this is something I assume, so I don't know exactly, but I think they're doing intentionally. And that's what I have to sort of fight against. And if you ask me if that's a cultural appropriation, then I would say yes. But everything else, nah. Nah. So those supplies, tools, and then teaching. Those tools are something like they come to this Sashiko world because of the profit purpose, correct? So those, I said, the gray area and teaching as a like completely dark area. Suppliers or shops who sell the supplies, tools, and also making money by teaching or publishing or teaching, sharing, they came into this Sashiko and continuing it for the purpose of profit. That is kind of questionable. But for me, making a profit itself as the result of you enjoying or appreciating the culture is perfectly fine. If which comes first? Is it profit comes first or the learning comes first? Because when the profit comes first, when one realizes that they have to learn more, they might change what they have to learn instead of spending so much time in learning. So the profit is right in front of them. So instead of spending 20 years to get that profit, they might just jump to this profit by saying like that 20 years does not exist. Then culture is changing. But if you decided to make a profit in those 20 years, you don't need 20 years, but those on the way to go understand what Sashiko is, that's perfectly fine. And you can, of course, that includes supplies too. If you decided to sell a supply that you fall in love with, that is perfectly fine. And you can explain the stories. Ideally, hopefully that's... I'm getting it. What is the purpose? That's it. That is the key to understand this issue. What is their goal? What is our goal? If the goal is profit, we have to be very careful. But if the profit is just the byproduct, we don't have to worry about it. That might be a good summary for today. That may explain simplify my talking. That can lead this conversation to the saying what I say all the time. There are two kinds of people in this Sashiko world right now, in English. One is who is simply enjoying Sashiko, or who is simply enjoying unlearning, enjoying to learn what Sashiko is, enjoying stitching Sashiko. Those are the group that they will be stitching regardless because they like it. They like the practice. They like stitching itself. And I would like to be friends with them. But there are another group of people. Are those like what they can get by saying that they like Sashiko. I will repeat. Second group is the category of the people who like or who has desire to get, who likes what they can get by saying that they like Sashiko. So they don't probably stitch much. They probably say that they like Sashiko or they know Sashiko, they might teach Sashiko, but they don't really like it. They can pretend that they like it, they might be stitching, but not this much. Or they will probably stop doing that when the trend is over. So that is a good summary. It's like a self-satisfaction. So I hope that I didn't really, lose myself in that. But again, any input is welcome to this. I am still learning it. And as I said in the talk last Saturday, if I did not leave the if I did not leave the country 10 years ago, if I were with the same mindset I became 30, like 10 years ago today, on my birthday, with the same mindset that I had 10 years ago, I would say that the cultural appreciation doesn't exist. What the heck are you talking about? It does not, what do you mean by appropriating the culture? It does not exist. That is gonna be my reaction 10 years ago. Like, don't be absurd. That's not, that's not really real. But after learning, I am saying like completely different thing. Yet still, I am in between, I guess. So it's difficult, but I think there's going to be a way to bring us together. What I do is going to be, I don't want to say always, but I expect what I do as the minority group thing to do. What I do will never, I don't want to say never, but I can almost certainly say that it's never. What I am trying to do right now is never going to be big as a trend, because it's not fast enough. I am not offering the answers or result as quickly as the market or trend require. And so for that, the publisher will not come to me so easily to publish a book because what they need is the speed and result. It does not happen with me, unfortunately. So, but when I speed up, I might lose something. So that's quite like I don't want to lose that. Is today my birthday? Tomorrow is my birthday, not September 15th, but it's kind of tricky part because in Japan it's September 15th already. So from Japan I get a message and it's officially tomorrow. No, what is the officially means? In Japan, in the US, it's tomorrow. like 2 more hours to be 30s. Like, Leah, can you believe? I was such a 10 years. Starting with my father's death and moving to the US, becoming an immigrant, hustling to get a green card, start like doing the Sashiko workshop, getting involved with this kind of topics. Such a long journey. Thank you so much for the comment, for the happy birthday wishes. I'm not gonna be different, but again, the year of every 10 is kind of big to me. it's something big happens in every 10. Like when I was 10, when I was 20, when it was 30, when I'm becoming 40. I don't know what's gonna happen this year, but something happens usually. So I hope it's gonna be a good thing. Yeah, I have had a very busy 10 years. I would have never ever imagined. I said it in the beginning of this live streaming, but I did not expect me doing this like 10 years ago today. Me doing live streaming like this and talking to you, getting to know you, sharing some Sashiko in English, and even, I did not even know that there are people who wants to listen to what I'm gonna say. So, 10 years ago, my mission was to shut down the Sashiko so that we will not, spread any mess. It was very like rational decision, rational strategies because many artisans were aging and suppliers are closing, and I thought that it's impossible to revive or re-energize those artisanship. After 5 years, 6 years, now I can tell that you or those who take my workshop can make that happen again when they continue. So I'm quite happy for that. I am probably happier in comparison to 10 years ago. I had a lot more when I was 30, like when I became 30. I had a lot more stuff. I had a lot more power, probably influence for that matter of doing the capacity of doing Sashiko. I had a little more money for sure. Myself, for myself. And I had a little more time. I had tons of thread, supplies, fabric, so many artisans I could ask for. Like resource-wise, I had so much, but at the same time, what I had was what I had to carry on my back, and that would have been a lot of obstacle to do what I'm doing right now. So, well, without people here, I wouldn't be doing this. So I hope that I can keep doing it for another 10 years, and I really appreciate you being here. When I say that, I really do, because you may be surprised, like when I say like those people who ignore me intentionally, they do exist. You may not know that, but they do exist. There are a lot of accounts that I can access because Tsuchiko-san, thank you so much for the message. I can celebrate today and tomorrow. Yeah, sure. Well, I'm gonna go to sleep after this, so thank you. Do you ever use a liner behind denim? When I need mending, yes. When I don't need mending, usually not. No, not really. So it's usually messy. But I try to not to jump. I try to not to make a mess, but not really. This may be selfish of me, but I am so glad you did come here and ended up with doing your Sashiko work and sharing your stories with us. Yeah, it's not a selfish. It's how it's supposed to be, I guess. I was supposed to do like that. It was my fate. It took a long years for me to realize it, but that was how it is. Yeah. Otherwise, Sashiko would have become completely different by now, and that would. I feel so sorry, or like not even sorry. I feel extremely bad, terribly, terribly bad that it became completely different to those who gave it to me. They did not want to give it to me, and I did not want to take it. But that's the years of not experience, years of time that I had to spend in my childhood. And unfortunately, they don't have voice anymore. I mean, they didn't have voice back then. They did not have any willingness to speak up in front of people, but they were they were complaining about it. They were making a gossip about those things. And no matter how much they complain, no matter how much they joke about those things, they were proud of what they were doing. I can tell. And some of the people who probably, I don't know how many people have been to Japan, but if you have visited Japan, my store 30 years ago, like 1990, 1995, 1985 to 1995, my 3 years old Atsushi may be running in the store. But that was actually the time that our Sashiko was actually the art. I say that Sashiko is not the art, that's my opinion, but there was the time that the Sashiko we created was so good. And I'm not the best Sashiko stitcher. I mean, I dare not to say that because I've been, I know better people. But the amount, the eyes, my eyes are so spoiled or like rich because I've seen the actual items and those memories are so strong. And hopefully, and I am hopeful, not hopefully, I'm hopeful that those pieces may be possible to remake if I keep doing this with receiving a lot of help from people here. I cannot do it by myself, but if I ask for the help, we might be able to do that. Okay, if after this much thread I will go off today. After 1 hour of stitching. But yeah, please learn Sashiko from those who is actually stitching. This might be kind of weird, but that's probably the first. This might be the cultural appropriation 101. Just know who you are getting it and understand or learn what their goal is. Do they like that culture itself, or do they like what culture brings to them? In different words, do they like Sashiko itself, or do they like the things that Sashiko can bring to them? That might be a good summarize for now. And if they well, nobody says that I like what Sashiko brings to us. If they say that, that's very honest, so I like it. Great, we can be friends. But usually they don't say that. They say like, well, I like Sashiko, that's why we're selling those things. There's gonna be a little gap. It is us, it is the customers, it is the students to make sure to be mindful either what they're saying is authentic or not. Sashiko, there's no such a thing as Sashiko, or there's no such a thing as authentic Sashiko, but there is authenticity in Sashiko. I don't trust Sashiko stitchers who don't stitch. Well, how can I trust? And the reason I say that, I was one of those. I did not stitch much when I was doing the Sashiko business with my family. And back then was not a good time to, like, it was very shallow. So I hope that this live session was helpful to kind of supplement the previous talk. And the previous talks, the archive of previous talk with Yuki-san is on the description area, so you can take a look at it. It's a 1-hour video, and I think it's a very good summary of my messages. And there's a follow-up videos which I have not updated yet, and there is this video is talking about the profit. What is the profit? Which I still don't get it 100%, but I hope this live streaming was a bit of help. Okay, I will come back to the next, tomorrow morning in the US time for the Japanese live streaming. I think I can do it next week around this time too, but I cannot breathe well today. All right, I will take a little breather and then go to sleep tonight. Thank you so much for